Something. Well, we're officially at 5 o'clock, or 11 seconds past 5 o'clock. So welcome everyone who's joined us today. We've got Myril, who keeps everything going behind the scenes. We've got Chris, who's my co-host as always. Thank you very much, Chris. Barnaby, who's an expert in everything to do with brand marketing and value proposition. And no doubt we'll be hearing a lot more from him in a few minutes. And today is very much about how to become the go-to brand in a digital economy. So that's all really exciting. Now, what would be really good, this is just like the intros part, if that's okay with everyone, is if you could just put in the chat, obviously your name comes up anyway, so that's great. If you could just indicate what you do and why you do it, in other words, how you like to make a difference. And if you've got one killer question that you would like to have answered, Barnaby is your man. And we promised Barnaby that we're going to come up with a few difficult ones for him as well. But and he thrives on those as well. So be as nice as
bring it on.
so just go for it. So if you give us that, would be great. Now, a couple of quick intros. I won't go into too much detail about myself because you've probably heard a lot of it before. But one of the things I say repeatedly is I believe in the importance of what I class as circular relationships. At times like this, it is all about giving back as well. Thinking about how you can make everyone feel good about the interactions they have with you and the other way around. And that could be your clients, your partners, your investors, it could be your staff, your associates, and so on. Just try and find ways of making everyone feel good about that relationship, and they also demonstrate that you care. And we've got Chris with us as well. So Chris, I'd love to hear a little bit about you and what you're really passionate about.
Well, yeah, I'm really passionate about, in this time at the moment, helping leaders to really step up and elevate their thinking, develop their people, build highly engaged workforces, but also in this current environment with so many challenges that this world has, enabling us to sort of step up and be less self-centered and think about with our businesses how we contribute to the whole and help us solve the problems that we've got around the world, whether it be sustainability and those sorts of aspects. So yeah, really passionate about that at the moment. I'm doing a lot of thinking about elevating leadership and a lot of work at the minute to help people to move that to a new platform.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Chris. And the lovely Barnaby. So tell us a bit about yourself and what.
Good evening, everyone. Great to be here. Real great to be joining here at Business Growth Studios. So I'm a career brand practitioner. I've launched over 570 brands across the globe. I had quite a rapid start to my career, ending up as the youngest MD of a top 200 ad agency in 1999. I liked that company so much that I ended up buying it, but only 10 weeks before the events of September the 11th in 2001. So marketing took a bit of a hammering, as much of the world did, and my agency really started to struggle. So we set out to create a formula for marketing success in a 6-month period, because we realized that advertising didn't work and the online arena wasn't really working and the dot-com boom hadn't worked and email marketing didn't work and lots of things didn't really seem to work. So a 6-month project was, we took that on, and 7 years later we'd completed that project, and in 2009 it was kind of done. But actually, the idea of having a fancy 6th-floor building in the centre of Clerkenwell was really not relevant anymore in that time. So we spent a year putting the whole formula into the cloud, and in 2010 I pushed out on my own with a huge outsourced network of best-in-class freelancers and suppliers. And today I'm working with 5 to 7 corporates a year. I speak professionally. I've spoken to over 15,000 businesses worldwide on how to become a go-to brand. I mentor. I'm mentoring 16 business leaders at the moment, and I write loads of stuff, books and articles, and help out wherever I can, and do lots of these.
Yeah, lovely. It's very interesting, Barnaby. We'll come on to this in just a bit more in a moment, but how the world's done a full circle, because I know you had to, well, several times since actually, because I know you moved out of your offices back then, because you saw a massive change in the market. And of course, people migrated back into their offices. And of course, we've now had this current situation, which we're in. So really interesting times. So before we sort of move on to the next part, so Barnaby, we'll also give you, we're keen to hear a lot more from you. But before we move on to the next part, I just to remove the slide just briefly for a moment. What questions we got come up, Chris? Was any feedback for anyone that?
No questions, Rupert. We've just got people coming in saying hello. We've got Ash, marketing director and consultant with Farmer Space. We've got mentioned Graham, Paul Boros, John Wright, Raymond Holt. Nice to see you. So lots of people joining. Pradeep again. Great to see you, Pradeep, joining us. So no questions yet, Rupert. Early for that. We haven't said anything yet, except finding out about the fascinating Barnaby and his marketing world.
Yeah, no, lovely. Thank you. So Miral, at this point, Miral, by the way, is every business needs a Miral. I've said that repeatedly before. I'm just a bit worried she might suddenly ask for a massive increase, as I keep on saying it so many times. But,
absolutely. It's on the cards.
Yeah, exactly. Now, on that note, Miral, you're just about to disappear. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Miral, just to set the scene, very kindly keeps track of everything behind the scenes here. If people get stuck, people will ring on her mobile, and we'll try and help people through as best as we can. So I'm just going to return very quickly to this slide deck and just move on to a couple of quick slides, and we'll give Barnaby his full due as far as this is concerned. We've got Farron on today as well. That's brilliant. So let's just move on. Now, I'm going to hopefully not to be too shocked by this, but obviously people will remember this from this week, no doubt. Barnaby and I were having a bit of a discussion before going live today about this, but I think all of us were pretty shocked, certainly the way it's being presented in the media. Then, of course, what you've got is amazing people coming together like Patrick Hutchinson. I don't know if you saw him being interviewed on BBC News yesterday morning, and I've watched some video interviews of him since. But these quotes here is exactly what he said. Love for fellow man. The thing for me that really caught it all was the fact we're all one people, all one race. And that those few words to me encapsulate an awful lot at the moment. And I don't, it's very right that the problems we've got at the moment are being brought to the fore, but actually we are one people fundamentally, and that's what we need, the way we need to look at it. And look at this amazing guy here, what he's achieved in the last 24 hours, how he's helped to mobilize the government to take some form of action. And again, I saw another interview with him, and he, as a kid, he was obviously brought up really well in a good family and with good morals. And you know, one of the conditions that the family said to him is that when you're young, we can support you, whatever you want to do, but you must always look at how you can help others. And certainly, you know, we're seeing that amazing man showing his talents now. So sort of moving on a little bit from here. What would be really interesting to do, again, just feed in the chat here as well. We will try and get to as many of these conversations as we can. Mira will try and answer some behind the scenes. Chris is doing his best as well, but we'll also try and bring some of the relevant ones in the fore. But if you could also indicate in the chat, who do you aspire to be and why? I'm really interested to see whether someone has got some real things that would like to share from this today. So we'll give you everyone a few minutes to type in there, but just give us feedback in there. We're always really interested to hear. And what we're going to do now is come to Barnaby in a second with the slides, and then we will, what we'll do is, just in a second, seem to have lost the slide here actually. There we go. Yeah, so Barnaby, these are the points that you plan to cover today. Do you want to start to introduce yourself on this? And what I'll do, just be ready for that slide to disappear in a minute, because I also want to give you much more screen space in just a moment. So do you want to just talk through these 5 points quickly to start with, then we'll go full screen into you, if that's okay?
Yeah, sure. So what I'm aiming to cover in the next period is really, I want you guys to understand that the role of marketing has fundamentally changed. I'm meeting too many businesses that are still being dragged back by the old model, and I'm going to give you some insights into what's changed and why it's changed and how buyers have changed. And actually then what I hope to do is then give you a kind of an insight what you need to do to cope with that, what the foundation stones are, maybe a little system that we've been using for over 30 years, but is more relevant today than it was when it was first created for Saab in 1995. And I really just maybe touch on where this is all going and why it's relevant right now in the post-COVID period, but actually going forward in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, how it all could reflect on that, the base work that you do now.
Yeah. No, lovely, Barnaby. Well, thank you very much. So let's, Mira, I'm just going to drop you out from here. So just bear me a second. Bye, Mira. Catch you later. Okay, and let's make it a little bit more intimate so we can all feel a little bit more cozy. There we go. Now, we've always got to make sure we position in the middle, which is a slight challenge. Chris, we've got you slightly to one side, but we'll see you in a moment. There we go. Perfect. So, Barnaby, can you give us a bit of an introduction to yourself, a bit more, what sort of got you into the space to start with? And obviously, you're running a very successful agency, but you had some challenges, didn't you, when the last downturn happened about 10, 15 years ago? What sort of learnings you've had since, and what's taken you from where you were then to where you are now? What's some of your big learnings being around?
Well, I think it's a great question. I mean, when I came into industry 35 years ago, there used to be a sector called the SME sector. And in those days, it was qualified as being businesses with 50 to 250 people in it. That was called the SME sector. Anything below that was called a SOHO, single office, home office, I think it was called. And then above 250 were corporates. So I cut my teeth in the very large top 5 advertising agencies over in Mather and Gray, and advertising was the real thing. And then, of course, in 1995, the online arena hit us all and changed world order, and actually advertising started to stop working, and nobody really knew what to do about it. And it took another 10 years. But during that period, we saw what was then called the SME sector entirely disappear. And if you look at the numbers today, you'll find that there are 5.7 million businesses in the UK, and 4.2 million of them, which is 76% of all businesses, have no employees at all. And a further 1.2 million businesses have less than 10 employees. But actually, if you look at the number of employees they employ, it works out about 3 employees a business. So 95.6% of all businesses in the UK have 3 people or less than working in them. And then actually the number, 50% of the employment in the UK, 50%, so I mean maybe 49 actually, is employed by just 7,400 companies in the United Kingdom of the 5.7 million. And then there's maybe a couple of 100,000 in between that and the thing. Now, what that really meant then was, as a mainstream advertising agency, it was really tough to find clients, because at that time there were 13,000 advertising agencies and only 7,200 clients. So everybody had half a client each. It's not real, because obviously Unilever had lots of brands, and Procter & Gamble had lots of brands, and Nestle had lots of brands, and Ford had lots of brands. So it all got dotted around a bit. So it was kind of hidden, the fact that there wasn't really any businesses to advertising for. And we started to understand that quite early on, which is why we suddenly realized we need to refocus our services on the much smaller micro businesses. And then there just wasn't any money in that, Rupert, to be honest. We had, at one time, I think we had something like 110 clients in our organization, and we weren't really making any money as an agency. And that's when we started. We kept reformulating, we kept reconfiguring, we kept redoing things and everything. And then come 2008, 2009, I had become a professional speaker. I was on a speaking platform with a chap called Roger Martin Fagger, who's a behavioural economist, and I was being billed as a behavioural marketer. And he said there's a double dip recession coming, and I looked at my numbers and I just thought I cannot cope with a double dip recession. So that's when we moved the whole system we'd created to the cloud, and I pushed out on my own. And now what I'm doing is providing exactly the same services to major corporates, not as many, but 5 or 6 at a cost that's unbelievable for them. And then what I do is I outsource to all the experts and all the fragmentation that's resulted, all the micro businesses that are actively being the digital experts and the SEO experts and the marketing experts and the kind of things that you do, Rupert, and all that sort of thing. These are all highly expert organizations and are really good at what they do, but they need kind of clumping together. The big thing that happened was, of course, our industry fragmented and went very creative and very technical. So what you've got is a whole digital arena that's entirely technical, and most clients have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And then you have a creative industry where my daughter can use Photoshop because she was taught it at school. So there's hundreds of little youngsters all churning out pictures and colors and stuff and using iStock and iMovie and blah, blah, putting all these great things together. And the poor old client has no idea what to ask for. They don't know what to give. So I'm increasingly finding businesses going, I just don't know how to hold all this together. And I'm very lucky because I'm a strategy man and I overlay a strategy across the whole organization. Yeah. Then I facilitate that going out. So it's a great place to be right now. It has to be said.
Yeah, no, interesting. It's interesting what you're saying about the breakdown of businesses, micro businesses as well, because there's many sectors which are very oversubscribed. You know, for example, if you look at this coaching, mentoring, consulting space, my perception was a few years ago was about 22,000 of them in the UK. In reality, it's not that. It's actually at least 6 or 7 times that. Yeah. In fact, probably even more than that. And of course, the trouble is a lot of people will price themselves down to the bottom, and they also have to try and find ways to reposition themselves. And of course, in the New World Order, which no doubt you'll be talking about, you know, people having to find their feet again. It's actually forcing people to reevaluate their models, which in many ways is a good thing. But my concern is people are going to go the other way, start to try and push everything online, and then realize they're just competing with everyone else doing things online. So how are they going to be different in that space? So it's a very interesting world that we sort of live in. Just like to have a slight pause for a second. Chris, obviously there's a few people making comments in the chat and the feed. Do we want to drop in any?
Rupert, yeah, Rupert, I'll look after you, Rupert, and I'll drop them in when as appropriate. You don't need to worry about that.
Excellent.
We've just got one from Ash. We've got nothing else at the moment coming through.
Okay.
I was just going to ask you, Barnaby, if I used to buy marketing for Mars and then for United Biscuits internationally. And when I did that sort of 15, 20 years ago, it was very, the big spend was in advertising. Yes. And often with big agencies. Then there were sales promotion agencies and some PR and a few bits and pieces. And I imagine now that spend has shifted out of advertising, as you say, is very, very fragmented. But I also wonder, I see a lot of clients who need different thinking skills as well now because of that digital piece. It has become much more technical, hasn't it? Have you noticed that you need a different type of client to be a marketeer now than perhaps or some different different skills than maybe 20 years ago?
We still need clients who really know what they are providing their markets. No, clients very rarely ever knew how to market themselves. That's why there was an advertising industry. That's why there's probably a digital industry. So to a certain extent, I don't think the client has changed, except they have become more sophisticated in the knowledge because they're challenged far more often now about what it is they do, how they do it. And you suggested sustainability, you talked about sustainability. Where do they get their source materials from, all that sort of thing. It's much more, so they have to be really on point now with their own particular products and services, which then frees up people who, like me, like you, live and breathe marketing and how you get your message out there and how you engage with the markets, because they haven't got time to think about that. They've got to concentrate on being, best in market and staying ahead and servicing the people who have decided to buy from them. So in terms of advertising, I mean, I think, there were some key points in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I don't mind telling, as an agency, we used to make 40% of our money on media, 40% on production, and less than 20% on creative and strategy. And the big agencies consolidated all their media buying because the TV companies started to get greedy and say, right, well, we're going to force you that. So they consolidated and called a thing called media independence. And clients would come to us and say, well, we decided to go through a media independent because they got big buying power. They've got, hundreds of clients they're buying on behalf of those. So we lost that 40% revenue stream. And then I remember being on the phone to E-Trade, which was became the world's largest online broker, and we were supplying them pull-up banners. Now, bear in mind, this is probably now 2002, and we would charge them £750 for a pull-up banner, which was fully designed, fully printed, delivered to them. £750. Bear in mind, this is 2002, right? These are the pull-up banners that you can pay £49 for, and they'll do the artwork for you for free, right? So just to be quite clear, and I'm on the phone, and my marketing director, and he said, we get those pull-up banners from Jaguar, don't they? Because I'd have them delivered direct, of course. And I said, yes. And he said, well, I'm on their website, and they only charge £199 for their banners, and you're charging us 350 plus the artwork. And I said, yeah. I said, that's right. And they said, well, that's quite a big difference. I said, well, how do you think we make our money? he said, well, I think we're going to buy direct from Jaguar from now on, because we do have a lot of them. And I said, fine, that's absolutely. I immediately called a board meeting together and said, okay, guys, we lost media. We're about to lose production, because all our clients are getting smart. They're going to look and check prices now. So we lost that. And then, of course, we're left with 20% creative fees. And by which time I've got kids coming in with laptops saying, oh, I see you're only on Apple version 8. Oh, I've got version 10 on my laptop. So, you need to upgrade. So I have a look, and it was going to cost £50,000 to upgrade my studio so we abandoned the studio, and we had kids coming in and sitting in and plugging their laptops in, and then they would copy the artwork onto our server, and it was all very good. And £27.50 there for it's mad. It's just how am I supposed to make money out of that?
So probably just to bring it in today's context as well, because in a sense we have done a full circle several times round. If you were to look at what we're in now, for example, how is retail going to fully recover now, when people have made a much more accelerated process to get buying much more online now? How can retail, as retail starts to reopen, how can it start to adjust to the new world that we're moving into, as a case in point?
I think strategically you have a very clear roadmap for the next for the next 2 years, I would say, certainly 18 months. There's a very clear roadmap. And that roadmap is you have got to quadruple your prices, because you've got to facilitate bigger purchases when people come in. So if you take, for example, now that we have to queue for an hour and a half to get into a supermarket, right? So I would hazard a guess that the dropping in every two or 3 days people that used to go in and fill a basket are now going in once a week and absolutely buying everything they possibly can in one go, right? Because they've got a queue for 2.5 hours, social distancing. I think what's going to happen in the retail world is you've got to enable the people who do make the effort to come and buy from you to buy more stuff. I launched a thing called Boots Opticians, and the strategy for Boots Opticians was to put a Boots Opticians at the back of a Boots, because the average spend of a Boots purchase was £2.76 at the time. So people would go and get a toothpaste and maybe a lipstick or something like that, blah, blah. But if they went into the back of the store to the Boots Opticians, they'd spend £300 on one visit. And I think we've got to change our thinking. We've got to, as retailers, we've got to sit down and say, okay, while you're with me, can we make sure you're going to not run out of this, you're not going to run out of that, I'll bundle that all together, I'll get it delivered to your home, whatever. You don't even have to carry it home, etc., whatever. And we create a service around a product offering and a product offering around a service offering. And if we start to do that, you'll suddenly see people will come less often and buy more. And it's like recessions. See, what's interesting is L'Oreal love recessions. They dance naked round the forecourt when a recession happens for L'Oreal, because the people who bought Boots number 7 or whatever buy less makeup in a recession, but when they buy, they want to buy something a bit better, so they move into L'Oreal. And people who've been buying the high-end cliniques and all these sort of things, they don't want to spend quite so much now, because they think, and they move down into L'Oreal. And L'Oreal see an uplift. You see this in wine. People drink less wine, but when they do drink wine, they spend more on the bottles of wine. And I think we need to think about that as retailers, how we provide more spend less often, if that makes sense. Because we're going to have to queue for an hour and a half at 2 meters distance on the high street in the rain. They're going to come in the store, and we want to really laden them with everything that we've got to sell. And I think that's a different language. It's a different style. It's a different style of selling. It's all those sorts of things.
It's this whole area is really interesting itself, because actually we talk about retail, but in real terms it applies to many other sectors as well, doesn't it? because, this whole thing around price sensitivity and everything else that goes with it. Now, you made a very bold statement about 3 times, the threefold increase in pricing. As a typical Barnaby statement. I can slightly challenge you on that, Nick, because I know you love to be challenged. Are you literally talking about a threefold increase, or you speak a bit literally there and say, well, actually, we can probably afford to offer a high quality service. We might be able to increase the prices by 30 or 40%. Or how could you basically take what you've got and reinvent it so it has a much higher value proposition?
Okay, so I think that there are a number of ways to do it. Let me tell you a story which inspired where I am now in the marketing sense. So 6 years ago, I think it was, we went on a shopping trip to Paris, and I have 3 daughters currently. Kimberly is 24, Claudia is 21, and Jasmine is 18. So you can imagine 6 years ago what their ages were. And on the list of shops was a shop called Abercrombie and Fitch. Now, I don't know how many people are on the call that know this, but Abercrombie and Fitch sell kind of high-end American preppy clothes, really. It's a place a dad should never take his credit card. Let's put it that way. You go in and etc. Whatever. So the girls say it's on the Champs-Élysées, and we go to the Arc de Triomphe end of the Champs-Élysées, and we walk down the Champs-Élysées and end up at the Place de la Concorde. And we've not found this Abercrombie and Fitch. There's plenty of other shops. We haven't found it. The girls are convinced it's there. I'm getting grumpy. They get the mobile phones out, and it's somewhere up on the left. So we walk back up again, and eventually we find a little metal sign in a gate saying Abercrombie and Fitch. And there's no shop or anything inside. So, but next to it, 2 really big ornate gates with 2 really good-looking boys that I didn't really want my daughters to be anywhere near. French boys, I mean, goodness. And then we approach the gate, and they go, "No, Mum," I said, "you cannot come in." And we go, "Well, why not?" He says, "You have to join the queue." And next to this gate, a bit further down the path, there's a queue. So I look at this queue and I go, "Well, how long is that queue?" And they say, "Oh, today it is about 45 minutes." And they go, blow me down. That's probably not what I said. Blow me down. 45 minutes. I'm not doing that. So I break out, sit on some benches, watch them. They queue for 45 minutes. They go in and they come out, and I assume they're not going to come out for about another hour. And I'm thinking, this is a shopping trip to remember forever, isn't it? But then I start thinking about what's going on, and I notice almost everybody who's leaving Abercrombie & Fitch has got a bag. So I sort of count them up, and in the first 100, 83 people are carrying an Abercrombie & Fitch bag. And I go, well, that must be wrong. I must have got that wrong. So I count them again, 81 people. And so I'm sitting there thinking, hold on, what's going on here? Here's a shop I cannot find. Here's a shop when I find it, I can't see into it and see what they're selling. I have to queue to get into it. It was like a nightmare. And then it leads to an 82% conversion rate to sale. Okay, I need to understand what's going on there. And that inspired a piece of thinking, which I can touch on in a minute, of why and how the role for marketing has fundamentally changed. And today, so I was sitting before this call thinking, okay, what am I going to talk about again? Now we are in exactly the same situation, except every shop has a queue outside it. Yeah, because of our thing. Now, who is going to queue just to browse around the shop? Yeah, just see what's in there. Nobody is going to queue to just see what's in there unless they are very, very sad. And the reality is now we have to use marketing in a fundamentally different way to enable the people in the queue to want to spend more money and to come less often, so that we can cater for, I was talking to someone the other week and I said, all right, we're opening up on Monday the 15th. Fantastic. What are you, he said, I said, how are you going to cope with the 2 meter ruling? He said, well, we do have a problem. I said, what's that? He said, our shop is only 2 meters. I said, well, so we can't physically get any buyers in at all. He said, so we've had a meeting about putting the counter at the doorway and behaving like an Argos. And I said, "Oh, I launched Argos, but that's another story." And they said, and then people come to the doorway and order across the counter. But unless you know what you're looking for, I don't know if you've ever been to a petrol station late at night and they brought you pay at the pump and you go to a little window, yeah, And then you say, and they say, would you like anything else? And you say, I'd like could I have a bag of hula hoops, to go on the journey? And then the guy scuttles from behind the counter and disappears. And then there's all this stuff flies up in the air and blah, blah, blah. And, there's wagon wheels and then there's onion rings and stuff. And then he suddenly returns with a bag of hula hoops. Well, your rate of sale is going to be minimal like that if everybody has to do that. So the people in the queue have to know what they're going to buy before they even get to the queue.
Yeah,
that's the real
it's a self-perpetuating problem, because the trouble is they need to know what they want to buy before they go into the store. They're much more likely then to have to look it up online to find it before into retail. And of course, then that makes it easier for. There's much less resistance, bar none, or very, very little resistance. And that leads in really nicely to this other question, which is really about. What do you think is going to happen to the number of buying decisions that's going to start going online? Are the number of steps that people have to go through and buying decisions going to increase or reduce? So what's your thinking around all of that?
Well, okay, so here's the revelation, everybody. And this comes from, so at the time I discovered this, I was also deeply, deeply enamored by a book called The Challenger Sale, which came out in 2011. And The Challenger Sale fundamentally shifted sales thinking. Insofar as what they said, and there was previous books like Selling to Veto and all that sort of thing that were really good. But what they were saying is, in order for you to sell into an organization, what you have to do is you have to find the person in the organization that wants to challenge the organization to buy better, to do better things. And the way you fed that person was with insights. In other words, what you taught them is to go into board meetings and say, the reason why we should adopt this new piece of technology or this new piece of equipment or this new coach or this new training program or whatever, is you have to feed them with insights. And what that did in 2000 is it led to, you'll have come across the 500-word blog, for example, right? It led to this whole idea of content. Put content out there. Content everywhere in the thing. And make the content interesting and insightful. And of course, everybody did that. It's fantastic. Then the organization behind that, CEB, then published the second book about 2 years ago called The Challenger Customer. And in that, it has a revelation. And the revelation is that when people contact you for the very first time, they've made 57% of the decision to buy. They're more likely to buy from you than not buy from you. And then what we do is we use the old traditional marketing to hose pipe them with stuff they don't need to know. How long you've been going, how many products you sell, the fact that if you want a holiday in Egypt, they also do other holidays all around the world. No, I want a holiday in Egypt, but et cetera, et cetera. They hose pipe you. And you're going, whoa, stop. And then you drift away and you disappear again because you don't want to be hose piped that way. Now, how do people get to 57% of the decision to buy from you without actually contacting you? Well, here's the big revelation that relates to your question, Rupert. All the research says, and this is E-commerce Foundation, Mary Meeker, all that sort of thing, is that 88% of all buying decisions start online.
Wow, 88%. That's really, really high.
Yeah, and that was pre the lockdown, pre the pandemic, right? So the answer to your question, I don't really know, because who would know? But I hazard a guess it's maybe a smidge more, but not much more, because it is already habit. And think about it, guys. If you wake up with a challenge, if I said to you, I'd like you to invite you to my office out in Kent, what would be one of the first things you might do? What, Chris? What would you do?
I'd look you up online.
Look me up online. Correct. Find my address, see how difficult it is. What is it? Train? Do you drive? Do you do all this sort of thing? Well, that's exactly what we do with every challenge and issue. We go online and look it up, and then we're bombarded with loads and loads of great stuff. We go there, could be that. Actually, go by train. So I could go by train. It's 16 minutes from King's Cross to where Barnaby lives on the high-speed electric train. That looks really good, but that looks really expensive. And anyway, I've got to get into London because I'm down in Croydon way. So actually, maybe I'll drive. So maybe I'll go down through the South Circular. That looks pretty good. No, actually, just I don't know. It's a bit difficult. Maybe I'll go around the M25. Oh no, there's no, actually, there's roadworks on the M25 again. I tell you what, but actually, I do know someone down in Tunbridge Wells, so maybe I'll combine it with that and go to Tunbridge Wells. You know, this is what we do before you even get to me. You've already made tons and tons of decisions. And actually, this is where marketing, the role of marketing is fundamentally changed, because we are doing this about every single purchase. Every single purchase we're doing this.
Yeah.
We're doing the research, we're using TripAdvisor, we're going on Amazon, we're checking it out, we're seeing prices, we're comparing, and we're building our own perception of value. You now, as businesses, all of you listening here, now have to own that journey, that 57% journey. That's what you need to do.
Yeah. First of all, I love the reference to the 57. I happen to know it's your favourite number. It's your 57th birthday party last year. Which
it's inspired by this, and I will talk about that.
He's going to produce a can of baked beans in a minute. Come out a can of tomato soup. So 57 is Barnaby's number. Remember that. Just like Marmite is his favourite spread, or not, as the case might be. Just something else. Believe it or not, sort of got about 10 or 12 minutes left or so before we start to move on to another part of this. But you also refer to basically what we class as a proven system to attract and keep your buyers. In the context of what we're talking about here, what's your sort of thoughts and feelings about all of this?
Yeah, so okay, so let's give you a very quick top line on what the formula for marketing success is, and this is at a strategic level. The first thing you need to understand is you need to build a brand, and brand is key. Now, whenever I use the word brand, people say, "Oh, that's a logo. It's a look and feel. It's a fancy look. It's it's what people think in their brains, etc., etc." Well, I have had at my disposal since '97 a thing called the brand bucket. I know what a bucket is. I have no idea what a brand was back in '99, and neither did anyone else. So we came up with a definition of brand, which is the following words, which is we define brand as every experience that affects the relationship between a product or service and its buyer. And the reason why that works is because you have to buy something before you have a true sense of brand. Anything else is opinion. That actually you're going to use the one currency that we have available to us, which is time. It is the only currency we have. It does manifest itself as a thing called money, but money is simply a unit of time. In other words, how long did it take you to earn the money? So you're going to place a value on that. And so if you're on minimum wage, then you're using 12 minutes of an hour to earn £1. If you're a multimillionaire, £1 is worth nothing. So actually, it's really critical to understand that you're asking for people for time. So what you're...
I just ask you to can that for a second, just for a second. I want you to continue with that. But that phrase you used, I've heard you say it before, but actually it's a very, very powerful phrase. Can you say that phrase a bit more slowly? Because I think it's something that everyone fundamentally should understand.
Okay, right. Okay, yeah.
Say it a bit more slowly so one can try and grab it.
Brand, the definition of brand is every experience that affects, with an A, affects the relationship between a product or service and its buyer. That's what a brand is.
Right. And you also refer to something you have in your pocket. And I don't want to say it because you say it.
Yes. So if a brand only exists in the mind of a buyer and they've used money as a reflection of their time to buy this from you, the role of the brand is to build a relationship that people value more than the relationship they have with the money in their pocket. And that's the role of marketing, is to engage people in such a way that when they look at it, they go, do you know what? I'm going to give you this £1 because I could never do what you're doing for this £1 with this £1. You're spending all your life doing it. I'm going to give you that £1. It's like an investment. And that's actually business in itself. And then what you need to do, marketing, is the discipline of making sure every experience in your business, every part of your system, every part of your process, everything's about building a relationship. So how you package it, how you answer the phone, how you dress, how you dress your window, how you write your proposals, how you send out your invoices, everything is about relationship building. And you have to apply marketing thinking to all of that. Now, what's the relationship between? It's between two things. And these are the two key foundation stones for successful business and business. The first thing you've got to do is you've got to define your value proposition, your story that you tell people. And that value proposition has 4 sets of values. What your behavioral, they all begin with B, by the way, just to make things simple. 4 Bs, they're fuzzing around. Just imagine they're flying around your head and you're going to swap one at a time. So the first B you're going to get is behavioral values. What's your style of doing business? You are not the only one in the market, but you are the only one that has the style that you have. And that's where individuals are really important, because they are the ones that determine the style. So your behavioral values you have to define. You have to then define your benefits. What it is you're going to give people, not the features, don't care, not interested, not why you're in business. Simon Sinek, start with why, complete nonsense. Forget it, just get rid of it. It's absolutely.
You've just totally destroyed one of my sessions next week, Barnaby.
He wrote that book in 2006. It was designed to enable business leaders to understand why they went to work. It has absolutely no role in marketing whatsoever. It's complete nonsense. Nobody cares about why you're in business or and so you've got to create your benefits, and then you've got to create what you want people to believe about you. Stephen R. Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Rule number 1, be proactive. Rule number 2, begin with the end in mind. You have to do that in marketing too. So you have to decide what you want people to believe about your organization, your relationship, before you do anything, because you can then judge whether anything you're doing will facilitate that. And then the final B is, what do you want to be famous for? Come up with something you want to be famous for. And there's a really interesting, loads and loads of ways of doing that, which would determine another session. Once you've got that value proposition, you can start to mix and match your benefits, your style values, what you want people to believe. You start mixing, matching those, and tell stories which people just go, wow, I like you, I get what you're going to give me, I can see what you're going to do for me, and I really love the way the way you do things. I like your little quiver 57 or whatever, Marie Curie daffodil, whatever, all the things that I've been involved in. Now, once you've got that, that's only one half of the relationship. The other half of the relationship is the people that you are selling to. Now, people mistakenly call these customers. This is a C word in our business. We're not allowed to use the C word, because actually you should only ever think about prospects. People who really don't care whether you exist, they wish you didn't, you're a bit annoying with all your outbound marketing, just not interested, cluttering up my inbox, I just want to go and buy stuff. So what you've got to do is you've got to define the attitude of your ideal prospect, not demographically. We don't care whether you're ABC, 1, C2, D, E, 25 to 54 with a disposable income of 12 grand, living in the Southeast, you know, and you're 60% male and 40% female. We're not interested in that. That's of relevance. That's part of the broadcast industry conspiracy from years ago. What you have to do is define people psychographically, and ultimately what their attitude is towards you, towards their lives, what they believe in, what they understand about your sector, what they're looking to achieve, what their problem, all of that stuff. It all forms part of that. So that's your 2 parts of your relationship. And then what you need to do is link those 2 together. And I would commend you to find a marketing system. There's lots of them. None of them are as good as my one. That's obvious. I have to say that. I'm on the payroll to do that. And actually, that could be really, really very simple. There is a thing called I'm afraid it's the F words, and I can't even use the F word on this. I'll show it to you. Yeah. This is the F word, right? This thing here, right? You'll have heard this word used a lot in sales and marketing, right? But I have a little secret for you, that when you turn it, you'll notice, I can do this, it's got a hole in the bottom. So what actually happens is the marketing people and the salespeople, they pour lots of stuff in here, and then they watch it flow out the bottom like that, just flow right out the bottom, right? And sometimes they use this as a broadcast thing, because that's how they shout at you and this at the other end, right? Now, the truth of the matter of this is nonsense. It's designed for my industry, right? It's not designed for your business. And that's why we use a bucket, because strangely enough, when you actually use a bucket, people pour into it, and it's all really rather cool. And what happens? Now, how does this work? Well, actually what we do is there are 3 steps to fill your bucket, and then this is it, and then I'll be at the end. Rupert, you can ask me another question. The first thing you've got to do, and actually, I'll just do this, because the Premier League is back. The Premier League is back, so I'll try the impossible on this thing, because we call this on me egg. Right. So I've just headed a spongy football so I don't damage my expensive equipment around here. Because at the top of the bucket, you've got to engage people. You've got to make sure that you're engaging, because people buy from people they like. But the key thing about this is people not only buy from people they like, but people who are like them.
Yeah.
Because there's so much choice. So I'm going to buy into brand relationships where I go, yeah, that's kind of how I think about the world. So we need to know how they think about the world. We've got to focus on that. So you've got to engage with people like that. And the way you do that strategically is you make sense of all the insights. And this is a new piece of research from Gartner. They released it in January. They bought CEB, the people behind Challenger Sale and Challenger Customer. And what they have discovered is that because there's so much good stuff now on the internet, people are confused again. So what you have to do is you need to demonstrate yourself as a subject matter expert and make sense of what they're looking for, what's going to work for them best. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you can do this because you are the experts. So please share with me your understanding of how things work through the social media, on all the platforms, everything, and just help me understand why I should buy and what I should buy, and make sure I end up buying from you. Once you've done that, they then come in and say, that's fantastic. Then you then have to demonstrate the fact that you know what you're talking about. And the best way to do that is to run a test drive. No marketing plan should be doing anything other than building a test drive. So what you're doing is you're trying to pull people into your bucket to take a test drive at the bottom, in the middle. And what they do is they go, this is fantastic. I love this. I really like this. And they go, I'm really terribly sorry. We are giving this to you for nothing, but we need to take it away because we can't keep, we're not a charity. We can't keep giving it. And they go, no, don't take it away. Don't take it away. I love this. And you go, well, okay, hold on. No, we need to think about it. No, we have to take, we can't. No, wait a minute. I have an idea. And they go, what? I said, you give us money and we'll carry on the relationship. And they go, yes. They don't even ask how much because they so love the relationship. And that's the critical part at that point. They then purchase, and then most marketing people go, fantastic, got the suspect, turn them into a prospect, turn them from cold into warm, into hot leads, and then you, and they've all been converted, and we're going to lunch. This is where marketing really starts, because actually they've given you a piece of their life in the form of money, time, money. So you now have to deliver. And actually, again, I'll ask all of you on this call, does anybody have an Apple product? Because if you have an Apple product, have you still got the box? Have you still got the box? Yeah? Most people go, yeah, I've still got the box. Why? It's just a box. No. This is beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, it's magical. It fits beautifully. Oh, it's just, I love it. This is from the 3. It's been around the world a few times. The reality is, that's why it's looking a bit damaged. People give me their Apple boxes. The new ones aren't quite as nice as the old 3 ones because they don't stop. But, and in fact, if you've been fortunate enough, the current Apple commercial is just somebody opening the box. That's all it is. There's no product, no nothing. You look it up online because they get it. They get that actually after I've bought something. The reality is that I want the experience to be amazing. I want the relationship with the product to be everything. The box. What are you doing as businesses to make the relationship amazing? Yeah, you're going to make me stand 2 meters and shout at me if I drift across the line. You're going to make me press my face up against a piece of plastic that you've hung from the ceiling, right? You're going to say, please don't touch me. I don't want to do that. Actually, you know what? Why don't you just give stuff away when people are in the queue? Why don't you go out, make them coffee, give them things, say, give them an order sheet to say, look, actually, while you're here, you might want to get some of this as well as this, as well as this. I don't know. Or you could have somebody walking up and down and say, why are you here today? Well, actually, I'm here to get some staples. Oh, okay, that's really interesting. How's the paper? You go, well, yeah, I've probably got enough for a little while. Well, I tell you what, you don't really want to be coming back into this, etc., etc. And actually, you can build the value of the purchase by the time they get to the original, the point of pay. So I want one of those. It's like, you know, an all-you-can-eat passion. And then finally, what you've got to do is you've got to say thank you to everybody all of the time, and never more so than now saying thank you. Thank you for queuing in the rain. Thank you for making the journey into town, where the council is still charging for parking, right? Because they are greedy, right? And actually parking up and walking here and buying this stuff. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And just love to see you again. This is how you can get a hold of us. We're now giving you a secret place on our website to go and buy stuff, and you just come and collect it, or we'll deliver it, or whatever. Build those relationships. And that's a system. You need a system to do that, and it brings your value proposition right up alongside your ideal prospect. I'm sorry, it's I've got away with it.
Barnaby, I think what's being shared here is pure gold, to be frank. Even though you've torn half of everything I could talk about to shreds, but that's fine. A bit of healthy debate is always a good thing, and no doubt Chris will feed in some of the comments in just a minute as well. So on that point, I think that analogy you gave about people queuing up in line and how you could perhaps hand out cups of coffee and go around with an order sheet and look at how you can help people outside the store. You know, why aren't people doing it? It's just completely daft. And the thing I'd love to think about as well around that is how you could apply that principle to other ways that people engage with, perhaps when they do it online or through Zoom, video conferencing, or whatever it may be. You know, how we can add further value. I think that's all real good. And the other thing I would just say around that too is just for everyone's information here today, obviously this is going out through live stream. It's also will be at the end of this be available through Facebook Live and YouTube Live and Periscope for the matter. And we leave the content up there so you can revisit it. So please do. So I think there's some gems in here which I'd highly recommend people replay afterwards. Also, what I plan to do, because I just want to make sure we stick roughly to time, even if we stay on for a few minutes afterwards and answer a few more questions. So Barnaby, I'll give you a bit of a rest for a few minutes. And if anyone's got any more difficult, any curveball questions they'd love to ask Barnaby, drop them into the chat now, and we will deal with those at the very end. And I'm sure Barnaby will enjoy every minute of it just as much as we will. So, okay. So I'm just going to share my screen just for a moment, for a second. What we'll do is come to some of the questions in a little bit. Now, I just want to touch briefly on what's happening over the next week or so. We've got details of the five-day challenge, five-part challenge coming up. So let me move ahead a little bit. What we're also going to do is be touching on about next week's live stream, and also prizes and competition, and also a Facebook group that we've got happening. Now, next week, to deal with the live stream, first of all, we had a bit of a discussion. I had a bit of a discussion with Chris and with Muriel about this, because obviously what we didn't want to do is run 2 events in one day. We thought that would be a bit too much for people. So next Thursday's live stream will actually be the 4th day of the 5-day challenge. So if you've already got a link for next Thursday, you can use the same link. Equally, if you signed up for the 5-day challenge, just use that one instead. It is possible our system might send out 2 emails for 2 different things, simply because you registered both. So if that does happen, I do apologise, but it's quite complex to deal with for all sorts of reasons. But next Thursday, we're going to be covering this to Social Selling Blueprint and LinkedIn. And yeah, thanks, Graham. I knew someone would bring that up. Farron was very kind to me on that one. He let me on.
Good point.
Yeah, stop stirring. So moving on from that bit very quickly. In terms of getting to the live stream, so you know generally, I've actually made what you're looking at here is the homepage of the website. If you scroll about 2/3 of the way down, you can slide your mouse pointer, click that button there to confirm the time zone. Now, the thing I just want to make a bit obvious to you is you can either choose the option which is to continue, you can just book the 1 session, or if you choose recurring, what it will do is you can choose how many weeks you want it to recur for, and it saves you having to register every week. So obviously quite a few people keep on coming back each week. I don't know why, because we're obviously very lively and respectful for people accordingly in due course. But yeah, just useful for you to know. And yes, I've seen that. Thank you very much. So, and moving on from there, this is the details of the 5-day challenge. So the first day is really about market insights and returning to the new normal. The importance of resilience and building your tribes is the second day. The third one is really about the 12 strategies or pillars to put in place for growing a successful business, and hopefully provoke a lot of thought with that. The 4th day is really about the social selling blueprint, and the 5th day is really about your action plan. I'm going to make some wild predictions as well. Now, it'd be interesting to see how right or wrong I am actually are over this. So we'll be looking back what's happened over the last 6 to 12 months, bringing it into context for the rest of this year, and then looking into next year. So I'm fully expecting people to come back with lots of feedback and from that as well. So it'll be absolutely great. Each day we will have a lucky draw for an Amazon voucher. I hate to support Amazon anymore, but so it's a very convenient means of distribution, unfortunately. And then in terms of moving on from that, on the 26th, which is Friday next week, we've got a free prize draw. Now, obviously, some of you may not be able to manage every day as part of the live stream, but you will be able to watch it afterwards. The videos for these are only staying up for a short period of time. On Friday, though, the prize draw is based on a value of just under £7,000. Okay, and what we'll be doing is be asking some questions of what people have learned from the previous days. So that's all I can really say in terms of giving you a clue. So if you can watch them live on the other days, do, because you get a lot more value out of it, because you can see the questions coming in now. We're going to try and make it quite lively. But if you can't make one of the days, try and watch it afterwards, because that's going to stack you, greatly help you in terms of the competition on the Friday. And what is going to be part of that is this is part of a new service we're introducing, based around still the 8 or 12 pillars. But what we're going to be doing as part of this prize will be made up of a laptop, software. We'll give you some online training and group coaching, and it'll be a 12-month package. And we'll actually give you the software so you can do a lot of these things for yourself in terms of helping to find clients. This is something we're about to introduce, but one lucky person next week will actually win this. If you're an existing client, we'll also look after you as well, because I know we've got a few existing clients on here today. So we might do things a bit differently for you, but one way or another, you'll get, if you were a winner of that, we will make sure that you get looked after. And then to register for the 5-day challenge, if you haven't already done so, what you may have previously done is completed a short form, okay? But what that didn't do is time with a calendar system. Now, about 50% of you have now rebooked using the calendar system, so it'll actually send you the links properly and everything else. If you haven't done that yet, can you please go to the homepage of the website, the button very near the top, just click that button. It taps straight, there's another button below it which says book free challenge now. That plugs you straight into the diary system. That will automatically send the reminders out on the links, and you'd be very welcome to take part that way. But if you don't do that, you won't get the links to actually register for the relevant days. So I just thought you'd like to know. And all people who join the challenge will be invited to a closed Facebook group. It's if you go to this URL, which is businessgrowthbureau.com/fast start, so just add the word fast start on the end, that automatically redirects you. Now, people have to actually apply to become part of the group, so please apply. We may not let you in for 24 hours or so, okay, and a lot of the activity will kick off on Sunday or Monday next week, okay, but get yourself in there, because what we want to do is to encourage other leaders and CEOs and founders of businesses who become part of this to also be able to interact with each other in the group, and obviously no doubt that will feed into more questions as the week unfolds. And obviously in terms of today and Facebook generally, you can set yourself a reminder. In YouTube, I think you can subscribe and it sends you links that way. And if you like what you see, then obviously do feel free to share it across your network. We do want to invite other people to join in the fun. And this is basically the last slide. Here are some contact details. So the Chris's details, they're Barnaby's. Do reach out, and only one of us will be very pleased to help. But very importantly, I'm very conscious of the fact that there's still a few points and questions that we haven't covered off. So let's bring everyone back in now. Just bear me a second, and let's bring lovely Muriel back in. So Muriel, you're online as well. So Muriel keeps a checkup. Like someone keeps reminding me that. Who keeps on putting that up? I hate you already. So what questions or comments have we might have missed? Sorry, is it you?
It wasn't me. It must be Muriel.
Is it you, Muriel?
Not guilty.
If you could see me, I can barely do one press up, let alone anything else. But that's no excuse at all. So So, Chris, what have you sort of identified, or Muriel, have you identified here that people we might have missed from?
Well, I think there was one question earlier on from Farron, which just take us off the subject of marketing. I guess it's relevant in terms of the resilience at the moment. But Barnaby had asked us how you sustained yourself personally through this roller coaster, the business life. I suspect we could probably do another whole session on this one, though.
Yeah, it's a great question. Actually, it's really rather simple. I was quite taken by the idea of what makes the boat go faster, and every day I do something I've never done before. And what's fascinating about that is you suddenly find yourself in a different place very quickly. You know, after if you've done 60 days of something you've never done before, you're in a completely different place. And I've done that throughout my career. So I know people take the mickey out of all of these books, but I make sure I read a bit of a business book every day. I look online to see what's new. I go into forums, and do you know what? I just can't wait to wake up in the morning and find out what the next thing that I'm going to do is going to make the boat go faster. And that's from I think it's Adrian Morehouse or somebody who won the 4 gold Olympic medals as they're a speaker on the circuit. And I just love that idea. And I think what that does is it gives you purpose. And I think the key to resilience is having purpose. And you need to settle on your purpose as quickly as possible, and then just stay hotly in pursuit of that. And that gives meaning to life. And I think wherever I meet people who are struggling with the mental side of business or the physical, it's because they haven't. Whenever I work with them, I always find it's the purpose thing that's missing. They haven't sat down and said, "What kind of?" You get one life. Again, just to be controversial, I do not buy into work-life balance. I think you get one life. You should enjoy your work. You should enjoy your life. It's all part of the same thing. There's just happens to be a home life and a work life, but actually it's just your life. And if you've got purpose behind your life, it's very easy to remain resilient. And if you haven't got purpose, you start to struggle. So, and that in a business context, that can be as good as a business plan or an idea, or the pursuit of a better world to live in, or what. It doesn't matter. Just get a purpose, and then keep doing things that make the boat go faster towards it.
Barnaby, I'm going to be very provocative again here. You're using the word purpose here. Isn't that very similar to why? If not, what is the difference? Around.
Sorry.
Tell the difference, because
don't be misled by my vigorous anti Mr. Cynic's view. My vigor is determined by the fact that the concept of communicating your why has somehow virally infected marketing, right? In terms of you as an individual, which I think is what Start With Why was all about. When he wrote it, it was all about helping leaders understand why they went to work, what they were about. If you actually read the book, and most people who quote it haven't even read the book, it's like most books, actually, to be fair. That was the essence of it. And in 2006, that was important because the online arena had unsettled everybody because there was so much choice. And I don't mind telling the story. Up to 1995, all the creative briefs that came into the agency had at the center of them a USP, a unique selling point or a unique selling proposition. In 1995, they died a death of 1,000 screams. There's never been a USP since. Okay. Because even if you've got one, the Chinese will have it copied and replicated and improved within 3 or 4 weeks. So you haven't got any time anymore with your USP, because if it's any good, somebody will copy it somewhere. So that went in 95. That was replaced then with why buy from us rather than buy from somebody else, because the online arena showed there was loads and loads of choice. And people went surfing and they did all these things. By the way, why do I know so much about the internet? It's because I was there at the beginning in 1987, right? 2 years before HTML. Now, the only way of proving that is, and I like to show this because it's quite funny, because I have the world's World Wide Web and Indirect Directory. This has all of the websites in the world listed in it. Right. Okay, I bought this when it came out. That's
I
kind of
used to have one of those.
Pardon?
I used to have one of those as well.
I used to bugger up my my laptops with my computers with these things. Yeah, right. I used to put them into my machines, and then I'd have to buy a new machine because there was more data on this disc that was on the front of a magazine in order to see the few things that were inside this. Right now, so actually, when the online arena really kicked into touch, that was, I think, in the early 90s that came out. But actually, when it really kicked into touch in around 95, everybody realized there was lots of choice. So it was all the briefs that were in my agency were why buy this? And interestingly enough, in 2005, 1 year before Simon Sinek published his book, right, which is 14 years ago, just be clear about that, we found the briefs had changed again. And actually, people were saying, look, the way you're going to be able to buy this from us is better. And actually, if you look at the marketplace now, all the brands that have emerged from nowhere, the Expedias, the Just Eats, the Amazons, the Googles, the Zappos, all of these brands that have appeared from nowhere, that compare the market, all of these brands, they all have one thing in common. And the one thing in common they have is not that they're online, is because they don't make any product. And they sell other people's products, because products not important anymore. Actually, the way we as buyers behave now is about but people need it's the way they buy things. It's the experience now that dominates the way people buy, not the actual product itself. So yeah, I think the why thing, it's important from an individual personal point of view, but from a marketing point of view, I'm sorry.
I think where it is very important, actually, I think I'm going to pick up on something Paul's just said in just a moment, because that was a great point. But I think the thing around it really is this whole part that people can get really, if fundamentally your why part, I would argue, is quite important, because in a business context and a personal context, if the two happen to be aligned, and you could argue why or purpose, whichever way you look at it, those are, to me, are the other parts which will see you through. So if you were to actually go through to perhaps the darkest times, and perhaps your business has been on its knees, and I think, crikey, that's going to have a terrible knock-on effect for us personally, it's that bit within you that drives you through. So for me, purpose or why, I see as being quite interchangeable. So I get great benefit out of it. But it's one of these things, we have a few beers at some stage when we're...
The question I was answering was, how did I remain resilient, not how do I do marketing? Right?
Yeah, I think also you've got to be mindful. I've interviewed twice the gentleman who worked with Simon Sinek when he didn't know what he was going to be a thought leader for, and they came upon this idea between them that no one's really spoken about why. It's a question we get onto what, but we never actually asked the question before that. Well, why on earth are we doing it in the first place? And he wrote a book about that, and it was of its time. And it was valuable, but it doesn't necessarily mean a concept applies to everything, does it, all the time? So
no,
we just made some sense of the world. But the other thing to think about with books is books are marketing too, aren't they? Each author is looking for a different angle to talk about that maybe someone else hasn't spoken or in a different way, really.
I think what Simon says about millennials is brilliant, by the way. I think where he's moved, I wish people forget to start with why thing and talk about his contribution to understanding millennials. I think it's far more interesting, far more exciting.
In a very positive version, we've overrun, but obviously people are still staying on. We call it a hard wrap, probably 3 or 4 minutes. But I just want to
sounds painful, but I'll go for it.
Yeah. So what's the point you're going to make about millennials then in association with Simon Sinek?
No, he talks about, he's done some great talks on understanding millennials and how they fit into the workforce, and what the old school baby boomers and the cross generational workforces that we're now experiencing. This is the first time we've ever had 5 generations alive at the same time, and getting all those people to work together is a fascinating thing. There are more people alive than have ever lived. It's a completely different world that we live in now. So, and Simon has really dedicated a lot of energy into understanding how millennials think, work, how you create a workforce for the future. And unless we embrace them, then I think all the talk about sustainability and purpose and all that sort of thing will fall on stony ground. I can't help being the age I am. I try and think young. I try and behave young, but you know, in the end, the biological clock will prevent me doing the work. My children are the ones that are going to inherit. You know, so we have a responsibility to enable them to create a world that their children can live in and their children can live in.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really nice way to look at it. Very quick sort of round up between the three of you, if that's okay. Chris, I'm going to pick on you first, if that's all right, to give you a few seconds to prepare. But Chris, as a matter of interest, what have been some of your takeaways from today that you might share from today? And Muriel, be ready, and Barnaby, because I'm going to ask you the same.
I don't think I've ever sat more quietly in one of these. I just sort of sat and bit the inside of my mouth all the time, really, today, and let you guys talk so I could listen, because I've written quite a lot of notes. So I always know when I'm interviewing, if I've written notes at the same time, there's some great content in there. And I need to go away and decipher these now and think about them. But I thought there was some brilliant content, and I think brilliantly delivered as well, Barnaby. I've seen you speak and engage before, and I have to say it's always been good, but this one's been my favourite. So there's a lot to reflect on, and a lot that I think everybody here can take away to go away and have a think about their branding and their marketing and how they go about doing it. And thank you. I would say thank you very much. And with regards to Simon Sinek and millennials, if you think millennials are tough and challenging, the latest generation coming through into the workplace are going to be even more challenging when they're quite happily, if they don't like something, they'll say to you, I'm not going to do that. I don't like when they're being told what to do. It's really interesting. Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. Don't want to do it. Actually, you're going to tell me to do that, I'll just leave the company and I'll take a few weeks holiday, and that'll be kind of fine, really. So that they're going to be even more challenging. So I guess I'm all right the next. But well, thank you, Barnaby. It's been brilliant today. Really good.
I'm going to drop in Paul's question points in just a minute, but you might need to get your book handy in a second, Barnaby. So just make sure you're ready for it. So thank you, Chris, for that. And Muriel, what's your feedback from today? What are some of your takeaways?
Well, I think I have to echo what Chris has just said. There was such a lot of information. It was really informative, but it was also really fun. Barnaby, you're wonderful. I think you've got such passion. And if I had to come and listen to you for 3 hours, I wouldn't hesitate, because you make it enjoyable. Obviously you're a great speaker. So thank you very much for coming on today.
Thank you ever so much, Mira. That's really appreciated.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just give some feedback, Barnaby.
No. Keep it good. Keep it good.
It's good. Barnaby's I got to know over a period of time. He's become a good friend as well. But you just have to take some of his humour on the chin a little bit and go with the flow and just be prepared to give back. But Barnaby loves it all. And so I think some great values being shared today. That thing around people waiting in the queue was a big one for me, actually. Because I'm trying to think about how some of those principles can be applied to other areas of business as well. And not just in the retail, but coaches, trainers, mentors, consultants, technology companies. So we've got Anthony on today, in the service management space, and so on. Barnaby, before I ask you that final bit, can you just what your thoughts are of today? Picking up on Paul's question, Paul asked a really interesting question a moment ago. In your book, is the name Google even mentioned in there?
That's a really good question. I don't.
Was the book written before Google even existed?
No. My book certainly wasn't. I think I have used it. I mean, Google break a rule, and I think I might have included them in as a logo somewhere in the book. If you're creating a brand property for your business, one way to do that is to create a logo where you can take a tiny little piece of it, and people will recognize it straight away. Google's one of the few brands that I believe once you have a logo, you only have one logo, you use it everywhere and you never change it. And Google are the one organization.
So they were mentioned in there then, were they, Barnaby? They were mentioned in that book, were they?
Yeah, I think they're mentioned. I'm just trying to find them, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting because people forget how, Facebook, how long has that existed for? LinkedIn, Twitter.
Google's 1998 is when they launched.
Yeah.
Can you indulge me with the Google story? Very quick. story.
Yes, I can soon tell. But everyone's still here at the moment.
No. So I
Michael's got something here he wants to ask as well. So.
Yeah, I launched a thing called E-Trade, and I was in Palo Alto, and I'd done a really big presentation, and I'd flown over there, and they were based there. And next to me were 4 guys in shorts and t-shirts, and sat at the table in this one cafe in Palo Alto. It was a bit like Canary Wharf in the early days, Palo Alto in those days. There was hardly anything there, and there was this one cafe. And these 4 guys turned up in flip-flops and flowery shirts and stuff like that. And I was sitting, I was quite smart, and the guys that I were with had chinos and smart shirts. And I leant over and I said, what a strange place for tourists to come. And they looked over and they said, what do you mean? And I said, look at those guys over there, those 4 guys over there. And they said, oh, they're not tourists. I said, why do they work here? I said, yeah, they do work here. We don't know who they are, but they're called Google. And it was just the 4 founders having a meeting in the table next to me of Google, which was in Palo Alto. So that's my Google story. So
that's a big one.
Everyone said, hello, I'm from the United Kingdom of London. I don't suppose you need an advertising agency, do you? Do that, actually. Do that. So, hey, I'm now giving talks on your show.
Michael, got a question. Barnaby, of course, is going to say his book's probably brilliant, and I actually would agree with him. In fact, I've given a lot of Barnaby's books away. I need to probably speak to Chris or something to give a few of yours away as well. So I'll perhaps bought them from Barnaby and then give them away, because I love what Barnaby has to share. But Barnaby, first of all, what's the name of your book again?
So my book in publish is called The Brand Bucket, Make Your Marketing Work, and I'm just about to finish, which is this one. I'm just about to finish my second book, which is much more relevant to the things I've been saying today. So I'm hoping to get that out in the market by the end of the year. So
that'd be great. And Chris, there's a great opportunity to on the shelf.
Is there a question there?
There is. I was going to come back to you in just a minute.
This question here was this.
Yeah. So what books would you recommend?
Okay. Well, I tell you what. What I've done is I've created a book list actually of my must-read books, and rather than go through them all, because it's got about 20 or 30 on, partly because the question relies on me understanding what you want to find out, and I can tell you what you want to find out rather than just saying, well, this book's good, this book. I don't think you should treat books that way. So, Michael, if you connect with me on LinkedIn, I'll happily send you my list of the top reads. They're in here. You know, there's 7 Habits of Highly Effective, Lean Startup. This is marketing, Thought Leaders Practice if you're a small business, Challenging Customer, Challenge Sale, obviously. Thinking Fast and Slow, absolute must read. You want to understand how to communicate. 4-hour work week, you know, so you don't have to work hard. Goal by there's loads on there, and I give a little description, the publisher, and then what I got from the book in the list. So then you can make your own judgment and do it. I'll happily share that with you, Michael, if you connect with me through the various social media platforms.
Yeah, great. Michael's a great guy, by the way. So, and Michael, if you can't remember Barnaby's address, then also drop me an email. I'll forward it on for you if you like, and you can get in touch that way, whichever you want to do it. Chris, have you got any thoughts on?
I mean, you can do the same with me, like Barnaby. I read a lot, and I take different things from different books at different times. So, like to do, Rupert is produce our own must-read list, and we could maybe incorporate Barnaby's in there as well.
Please do.
Yeah. I mean, I just pulled some off that I've recently read. But if you're interested in sort of Black Lives Matter kind of thing, I just thought that was it's only $2.95. It's an incredible read. It's completely off the off it when it comes to business, but very inspiring story as well. If you're interested in purpose and why, a friend of mine books on purpose.
Chris, unfortunately we're losing you, which is an interesting point. So we're trying to tell us the name. What was the name of that book again, Chris? Because we lost you.
Which one was that? The Selling with Noble Purpose, or
we didn't hear it, so that's obviously one of them.
Okay, well let's Selling with Noble Purpose was one of them. I've got loads, so we'll produce a reading list, Rupert.
That's a good idea, and perhaps we'll tap into Barnaby on that too.
Yeah, I'll send you mine. You can incorporate it.
Thank you. Well,
there'll be some crossover.
Thank you. Right. Anyway, I just want to say I think we should call it a wrap. But thank you ever so much, everyone. A lot of you still, most of you still online now, so very impressed by that. So obviously it must have been a really exciting
Thanks
session.
very much for all the positive comments as well. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, really appreciate it. And I've just, it's been a great evening. Thanks for everyone's interaction today. So have a wonderful evening, everyone, and look forward to seeing quite a few of you next week. So remember, register for the 5-day challenge.
Yeah,
do it. We'll look after you. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.